phenomenon came together.
And as those winds come down out of the storm, they blow across the ground.
Tick season in many parts of the country is now a year-round concern.
Having warmer winters does play a role in spreading tick-borne infections.
And no mow May, the benefits of letting your lawn grow all month long.
So that the bees and other pollinators have food sources readily available to them.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm Angela Brown. It's getting warmer outside and flooding concerns are also rising. We start in Utah where water is invading rivers and streams. It's due to snowmelt from historic winter storms. Residents of Spanish Fork know the water's on the way. Their main concern, preventing flooding. Darby Sparks is there breaking down how the state of Utah is helping.
Everyone's doing the best that they can.
Tom Worthen owns a pallet company next to this nearly overflowing storm bridge and says he's losing sleep checking on how far the water has risen over the last few days.
We're worried about it. I mean, we come down all night long.
But he says the city has helped him, providing resources like sandbags and volunteers. Over the weekend, he says the city and the people in the community helped him to build an 850-foot wall of sandbags around his property to help prevent the most damage possible.
One phone call, one quick text, and people were just piling in here asking to help.
Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson used Spanish Fork as an example of one community that's going above and beyond to be proactive in their flood mitigation efforts.
And we've had thousands of volunteers filling sandbags, lining properties, lining the riverbank, and everybody working together to make sure that we're as prepared as possible.
State leaders have spent millions on flood preps, including $5 million set aside during the legislative session that has already been spent. But Henderson says local governments must take the lead with their own flood plans.
Well, we've been working really hard to partner with our municipalities and with our counties. There is a cooperation that's needed because there's no one, like the Spanish Fork River doesn't only impact Spanish Fork City. There are a lot of other places along the way that it impacts. So where it impacts counties, the counties are involved as well as the cities.
From potential flooding to mudslides, the record winter snowpack in Utah is creating a number of problems. Take a look at this right here. Large mudslide overtaking the road in Little Cottonwood Canyon, Utah. The Utah Department of Transportation says this mudslide was about 4 feet deep and 100 feet wide. The road was already closed because officials feared something like this could actually happen. So far, it's not clear what, if any, damage the slide caused to the road and when it will actually be cleared away. And now let's move to Maine, where rivers are swollen due to rain and snowmelt from the mountains. For example, water levels remain high along the Kennebunk River. In the city of Hallowell, the excess water has brought some businesses to a standstill. A local cook at this local tap room says dining outside was a no-go with all that water.
This is just a minor problem that we have. You know, we've got storage area downstairs that's underwater, you know, where we keep our food. It's going to be pretty costly. I've been down in the basement with waders on. I mean, it's pretty much up to your thighs, but until that water decides to leave, we can't really do much.
The Kennebunk River is still at flood stage along with parts of the Androscoggin River. And check out what happened after a flash rain and snow event hit Mount Washington and New Hampshire. More than 1.5 miles of the road that takes people to the summit were washed out. A post on the Auto Roads Facebook page says repairs are already underway and the road will open on schedule in mid-May, of course, weather permitting. The 7.5-mile road is the only way to drive to the top of Mount Washington. And sadly, another person has died as a result of Monday's deadly dust storm pileup in Illinois, bringing the total number of people killed to 7, according to the Illinois State Police. More than 70 cars were involved in this pileup caused by a dust storm created by farmers tilling fields in the area. The dust storms can happen really for a variety of reasons. Meteorologist John Gum has more on these unique weather phenomenons.
Well, dust storms can be disruptive and they can even be deadly. These are formed by strong winds. Oftentimes, these winds come from a thunderstorm. And as those winds come down out of the storm, they blow across the ground, and that ground is where the dust is, obviously, and the wind picks up that dust and throws it up into the air. And this can cause major issues, obviously, not just air quality issues, but in some cases reducing visibility to near nothing. Hazardous driving is something we've seen out of these as well. It's similar to a whiteout with snow. You can't even see your hand in front of your face, and we can get multi-car pileups sometimes with these dust storms. Also, something else, it can cause mechanical issues for planes, and as I mentioned, breathing and health issues can even be created by dust storms. Something more common west of the Mississippi River, but as we've seen, they can even occur east of the Mississippi River if conditions are right.
We are several weeks into spring, but it looks a lot more like winter at California's Shaver Lake. Yesterday, a storm dumped even more snow in the region. This says many people are preparing there for summer. Myra Frankfurt talked to folks in that area.
It's snowing again in Shaver Lake. In May, this was the view driving up Tuesday. It looks like a winter wonderland. Snow flurries falling around the Shaver Lake Marina with misty conditions and winds picking up, making the waves crash. Rooftops covered in snow and wet roads once again. And we're just a few weeks away from the unofficial start of summer, Memorial Day, which the general manager of Shaver Lake Sports, Tyler Powell, says he's ready for. Although Tuesday's snowfall wasn't much of a surprise.
Usually we always get some sort of snow. Usually around Memorial Day I've seen snow.
He says with all the snow, he feels it is going to be a good summer.
So we got a lot of snow melt, which is going to help the lakes be full this year.
Perfect for recreational activities, and he says he has you covered.
We got boats available, fishing boats, pontoon boats. We got sand toys for the kids, swim trunks, anything you need for the summer at the lake.
Powell says business is picking up as people are gearing up for some summer fun.
We're hoping for a great, spring's almost over, so a great summer. So fishing's really starting to kick off. A lot of people coming up, getting their fishing licenses, buying fishing tackle, starting to rent boats, and, starting to enjoy the summer.
And there are a few more snowy days forecasted for this week at the lake. So the California Highway Patrol is telling folks to plan for all this. Tire changes may be required at higher elevations depending on the amount of snowfall. Hurricane season is right around the corner, and this week is Hurricane Preparedness Week. So let's turn to meteorologist Lauren Oleski to help us better understand forecast information.
Today's topic is understanding forecast information. Make sure you have trusted sources to get your storm information from, whether that be your local newscasters or, of course, the National Hurricane Center. Know the alerts that are in effect for your area. Know the difference between a watch and a warning. A watch is a heads up, something is potentially on the way. A warning means that something is imminent and occurring and likely will be occurring in your area, usually within a 24 to 36-hour period. Focus on those potential impacts regardless of the storm size or category. Remember, a very weak hurricane can still produce life-threatening rainfall across portions of the landfall area when that storm moves ashore. And also know that those deadly hazards can occur well outside of the forecast zone, forecast cone. Don't just look at that cone because, of course, those storms can be larger than that cone is. We're going to talk more about Hurricane Preparedness Week for the rest of this week. Tomorrow's topic is get moving when a storm threatens.
Hurricanes and tornadoes are just a couple of the risks spring can bring. For our four-legged friends, spring walks can bring unforeseen dangers. This dog right here got herself in quite a predicament in Milford, New Hampshire Tuesday during a walk in the woods. Gracie ran after something and somehow got her head stuck in a hole in a tree. Look at that. Firefighters were called to the scene and used hand tools to carefully cut the wood and were able to free her. Gracie's owners say she is doing, though, just fine. And coming up on the National Weather Desk, we'll find out why many people are skipping lawn mowing for the month of May. And also we'll hear from an expert who warns that ticks are now a year-round problem.
Hi, everyone. I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We have more unsettled weather in the forecast in the Northeast, courtesy this upper low spinning today. This is 3 o'clock in the afternoon, or 3:30. Notice more scattered showers and areas of drizzle. The other item worthy of note, notice how much cooler than normal it is. We should be in the 40s and 50s today. Normal highs are quite a bit warmer, about 10 degrees warmer than that in the Northeast. Thursday, there's only the chance for showers. That's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, with a slight risk for a shower and continued cool temps on Friday.
I'm meteorologist Jonathan Myers, and here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region. Starting off mainly with clouds, but there could be a spot sprinkle by about 9 a.m. on our Wednesday. By noontime and beyond, some spotty to scattered showers, maybe even some snow up in the West Virginia Highlands and extreme western Maryland. Outside of that, it's kind of one of those chilly days once again as this latest weather maker storm system just off to our north continues to provide cool temperatures in the 50s to near 60 and gloomy skies. That's the scene here.
I'm meteorologist Vitas Reed. Here's a look at your southeast forecast highs for the day. Looking at Nashville, 68 degrees, Raleigh, 64. Definitely jacket weather. We're looking at Birmingham, 72, compared to 83 in Mobile, Jacksonville, 82, 87 West Palm Beach. Looking at plenty of sunshine across the area. The southeast looking nice and quiet and dry. High pressure pretty much in control across parts of Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama, stretching all the way up through the Carolinas. Florida looks nice and dry as we go through the next several days until we get towards the weekend.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Crews continue clearing snow-blocked mountain roads in central California. This work from the weekend in Mono County, east of Yosemite National Park. And yes, it's some of what fell during their record-breaking winter. And this Baltimore Oriole was spotted in South Bend, Indiana. Some of these charming birds become avian Hoosiers during breeding season from May through August.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
In Boise, Idaho, residents are getting ready for the chance of severe flooding. The snowpack in the Weiser Basin is running 230% of normal snowpack, bringing back some old memories from 2017 when floating ice chunks clogged portions of the river, leading to severe flooding. Meteorologist Roland Stedham talks to folks worried about a repeat this year.
And of all the rivers in the Treasure Valley, the Weiser is the only one that is completely open to the forces of nature.
I guess the one thing about this river is that there's no flood control upriver from here. So if we get a big snowpack and high temperatures, or if it rains on a big snowpack, then the water's going to come down uncontrolled and very fast.
Jim and Larry have lived in Weiser for a combined 40 years. They have seen what can happen when the river spills its banks. Here's video of the Snake River in 2017. It was frozen solid. It created a dam that didn't allow water to flow downstream. With the spring runoff, the Weiser had nowhere to go but up. History was being repeated. This year, the snowpack in the Weiser Basin is running 233% of normal. That's over twice the normal snow. It's a bit of a concern. However, the same section of the Snake that was iced over in 2017 is wide open today. No ice dams to hold back the water.
I think the water is going to be pretty dramatic for a few days, but I don't believe we're going to see any real flooding. I think we're without the ice jam to hold the water back. I think the river will handle it, and I think we're going to be okay.
If flooding has happened before, it can happen again. A reservoir on the Weiser would be the key to controlling the flow.
I personally would like to see them put the Galloway Dam in. That way they could control the flood, and they also could use the extra water for irrigation water like this going through, it just goes out to Columbia and out to the ocean. There's no chance of using it.
In Wisconsin, the growing season is getting closer and closer, and area farmers are starting to gear up for spring planting. And as meteorologist Phil DeCastro reports, this year's wild winter weather might end up giving farmers a leg up.
Farm fields around northeast Wisconsin are pretty empty this time of the year. Not that we should expect anything different. And despite an up and down spring weather-wise, Hobart dairy farmer Daniel Diedrich says things are pretty much on schedule.
We got some snow, it melted, but it wasn't a lot. It didn't freeze again really hard right away. And then we got snow later, but then it never froze underneath it. So it was all kind of fine, and it worked out okay. And right now we're more or less on track for where we want to be.
Where they want to be is fields that aren't soaked with standing water, but aren't too dry either. And considering how much snow we got just a month ago, that might come as a surprise. But according to Brent Peterson, an agronomist with Brown County Land and Water Conservation, a lack of deep ground frost this past winter allowed the ground to soak up that melting snow like a sponge.
Any of the snow melt that we've had and any of the rains that we've had have had an opportunity to work through the soil profiles. So it's going to help us out here when we start reaching middle summer, that kind of thing, where we've got some additional moisture to try and get us through the dry periods.
Peterson and Diedrich both say it's a little too early to do much planting right now, but it's probably not too far off. And again, that's right about where they want things to be for a productive season.
It really is helpful to see things moving at a pace that makes sense. Okay. And not have to worry that we're already behind or we've got problems. We've got time to finish getting the field equipment ready. The long-range forecast is doing the things it should do. It's looking like it's going to warm up into the mid-60s. In another week, we're going to be looking okay.
And as the weather warms up, we naturally like to spend more times outdoors, increasing the risk of getting bit by a tick. Those nasty bloodsuckers can carry dangerous illnesses like Lyme disease. But it turns out tick season is looking more and more like a year-round problem. And doctors say you should take precautions. Lee Stahl has more.
You may think ticks are a summertime pest, but a warmer than usual winter in most parts of the country means you should think about protecting yourself year-round.
Two of the ticks that we're particularly worried about, the black-legged tick, formerly known as the deer tick, they are definitely expanding their range and increasing in number. They're now found in many more counties across many more states than a decade or two ago.
They're the ones that can transmit Lyme disease. Symptoms include fever, headache, and a bullseye rash around the bite. Most cases can be cured with antibiotics if treated quickly. According to the CDC, about 476,000 Americans are diagnosed with Lyme disease every year. Peak season for tick activity is usually from May to August, but researchers say it's hard to predict how the tick season will play out this year. Mild winter and early snow melt could mean more ticks earlier than usual and a wider spread of Lyme disease and other tick-borne diseases.
It does look like having warmer winters does play a role in spreading tick-borne infections because the ticks will be out earlier and many more will have probably survived the winter.
There's no Lyme vaccine right now, but one is being tested.
Ticks are not the only critter we see more as the weather heats up. Bees are also starting to make an appearance. Meteorologist Ryan Munn is in Portland, Maine, reporting on a new trend called No Mow May and how it's all about protecting the bees.
Flowers are just starting to bloom, trees are just starting to bud, and the bees are actually coming out of hibernation around this time also. So it's hard for them to find their food sources, which are pollen and nectar, to sustain themselves during this time of year.
Sustainability coordinator Jamie Fitch says the new trend called No Mow May is gaining popularity. The idea is to avoid cutting your lawn for the entire month of May in order to help the bees.
Allow those flowers to grow up so that the bees and other pollinators have food sources readily available to them.
If you don't like the idea of letting your grass grow all month, consider cutting back.
Other people want to just mow less, so they are willing to let their grass grow a little bit longer and mow maybe once or twice in the month.
If you can't wait to fire up the mower, you could consider leaving designated areas alone.
So whatever people are comfortable with, that's what we're asking them to do.
Fitch also encourages people to plant other flowers in their lawn, like white clover and creeping thyme.
Start thinking about their lawns as habitat, not just for us to play on, but for bees and other pollinators.
It's all the buzz to help the bees.
They're essential for our trees and for our flowers and all of that as well. So, humans wouldn't be here without bees pollinating our plants for us.
And don't forget to check out our podcast, Off the Radar. New episodes drop every Tuesday, and this week's episode is all about cold plunges. They are all the rage online. But do they meet up to the hype? Find out. You can listen to Off the Radar wherever you get your podcast. And from bees to birds, as we go to break, enjoy this beautiful blackbird gobbling berries during a southern France spring.
Well, a very good Wednesday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buckmichael. Still great weather across the plains. You guys have had plenty of sunshine to the west, but for the Ohio Valley, still finally kicking the showers out of here, heading into the day tomorrow. We do have some thunderstorms starting to move their way in from the south, but look at these temperatures warming up. A lot of 70s, 80s, still 60s across the Great Lakes, but it warms up more heading into the weekend. And that little bit of rain does start to work its way a little bit more to the north and east on Friday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. We're a little chilly this morning up in Arkansas, into the 40s, everybody else in the 60s and 70s with some low clouds into the region. Those clouds will break up today. We'll get some sunshine as we watch a warm front move up to the north. Scattered showers from North Texas all the way back in to West Texas. Temperatures this afternoon with sunshine will be warming up into the 70s and into the 80s. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there, everybody, and a happy Wednesday to you. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Unusual spring muggy warmth through parts of the Pacific Northwest again today, well into the 80s between Spokane and Boise, again with a chance for some big thunderstorms blossoming over the Columbia Basin as the day goes on. Versus low 60s, San Francisco back in the fog and the heavier showers and thunderstorms moving down the Golden State coast as we have this low dropping into LA later today. And that's the scene from here.
Have you ever heard of the North Atlantic Oscillation? It's a type of weather phenomenon over the North Atlantic Ocean, and right now is having a major impact on the northeastern U.S. Meteorologist Anthony McCarry has more.
Part of the reason for this has to do with what we call the North Atlantic Oscillation. So it's a teleconnection, one of many that we track across the globe. And this one has to do with the positioning of an area of low pressure and high pressure over the Atlantic. So they're generally permanent, but it's their strength that varies. In the positive phase, the area of low pressure is even stronger and the high pressure are stronger. So the jet stream tends to go due west to east. In this situation, we actually end up with warmer conditions. However, we are in what is called the negative phase. This has been the case since about mid-April, and the forecast now is likely to continue this for at least another week into May. So in the negative phase, the area of low pressure is weaker, as is the high, and they move a bit further to the east. That allows this blocking area of high pressure to develop just south of Greenland. So rather than being due west to east, the jet stream now bends south of us here in New England, up to the north toward Greenland, and then back south heading closer to Europe. So that's why we get areas of low pressure.
And thank you for joining us on the National Weather Desk. We'll head to California tomorrow to find out what they are doing to help increase local salmon populations. I'm Angela Brown. Make it a great Wednesday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.